For this video, we're going to look at factoring the polynomial x squared minus 144. Now the instructions that we're given for this problem are to factor using the difference of two squares, but you're not always going to be given those specific instructions. Sometimes it may just say factor and it'll give you the problem like this. But the good news is the difference of two squares is a really nice method for factoring. It's fairly easy compared to some of the others. And so there are a couple of things you want to look for to see if you can use difference of two squares to factor. The first thing is you want to look to see that you only have two terms. That's kind of a dead giveaway that you may be able to use difference of two squares. Then you want to look at the keyword difference. You want to make sure there's a negative in between the two items, because if you have a plus, that's not the difference of two squares anymore. That would be the sum of two squares. So two items, there's a minus sign in between the two, and then you want to look and see that you can take the square root of each of the two things cleanly. So for instance, the square root of x squared is just x, and the square root of 144 is going to be 12. And so those are the things you kind of want to look at mentally when you're going into a problem if you're not given the specific instructions. So since we are given specific instructions for this to do the difference of two squares, and you could go through that mental checklist and everything checks out, let's go ahead and get to the process. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create two sets of parentheses, much like we did when we were factoring trinomials, and you want to go ahead and put an x in each of the first two slots for this problem. And where we're getting that x from is really, you're just looking at the square root of the first term. The square root of, in this case, x squared, being the first term, is x. And so you put that in each of the first two slots. Then you take the square root of the second term, and we already found that the square root of 144 is going to be 12. So we're going to put the 12 in the second slots for each set of parentheses. And then you just put a plus in between one set and a minus between the other. It doesn't matter whether the plus comes first or whether it comes second. And that's it. That's going to be your final answer. So difference of two squares is really nice. Just take the square root of the first item, put it in the first two slots of the parentheses, take the square root of the second item, put it in the second two slots for each set of parentheses, and then put a plus and a minus. Now for this problem, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of FOIL out what we had as our answer just to show you how it goes back to the original problem. So again, I want to emphasize x plus 12, x minus 12 is the answer. But now I'm just doing some extra work just to show you what goes on behind the scenes and why it does factor out this way. So let's go ahead and FOIL out our x plus 12 multiplied by our x minus 12. Again, this would just be to check yourself. You don't have to do this. So we're going to FOIL. So the first, the outer, the inner, and the last. And what that's going to give us is x squared minus 12x plus 12x minus 144. And so you can see what happened right here. We have a plus and a minus 12x. And so the linear terms, when you FOIL this out, they cancel each other out, leaving you with just the x squared minus 144, or what we started out with. So there you go. There's the answer, and that's how you do the problem, as well as some background as to why it works out.